Why is it that so many women find themselves drawn to men who don't value them? Why do they chase men who ignore them, overlook them, or fail to see their true worth? At first glance, it seems irrational. You'd think that if someone doesn't value you, you'd naturally lose interest. And yet, countless women find themselves caught in this very paradox. The less attention, care, or recognition a man gives them, the more their desire grows. This is not just a matter of psychology, it's deeply philosophical. The philosopher Agnes Callard, known for her work on aspiration and desire, offers us a way to understand this strange but powerful phenomenon. She argues that desire is not always about what we already know we want. Instead, desire often points us toward something we feel incomplete about, something we are reaching for, even if we can't yet fully grasp it. Women, when faced with men who don't value them, often find themselves pulled by this exact kind of incomplete desire. The yearning for recognition, validation, and transformation. In today's video, we'll break this down into 7 parts. We'll uncover the hidden psychological and philosophical reasons why women often feel attracted to men who don't value them, and we'll see how understanding this dynamic can empower men to stop chasing, to stand firm in self-respect, and to embody the calm confidence that women cannot resist. So let's begin. Here's part 1. Part 1. The Paradox of Desire. Agnes Callard teaches us that desire is not always rational. Unlike basic cravings like hunger or thirst, human desire can be contradictory, confusing, and even self-destructive. Women, like men, are drawn toward what feels scarce, unattainable, or uncertain. The paradox of desire is that the very absence of something can make it more powerful than its presence. Think of a man who values a woman too openly, showering her with constant validation, attention, and affection. For many women, this might seem comforting at first, but quickly it becomes predictable. Predictability breeds security, but it can also breed boredom. There is no challenge, no uncertainty, no feeling of needing to strive. Desire withers in the face of certainty. Now compare that with the man who does not openly value her. He does not chase. He does not put her on a pedestal. He withholds, whether intentionally or naturally, his full attention. In this absence, a spark is lit. The woman begins to wonder, why doesn't he see me? Why doesn't he admire me? What would it take to gain his recognition? And suddenly she feels the stirring of aspiration, the drive to be noticed, chosen, and valued. Callard's philosophy explains this perfectly. Aspiration is the act of reaching for a value you don't yet possess but deeply long to embody. For a woman, the man who does not value her becomes the mirror of aspiration. She sees in him a challenge, a puzzle, a gap she must close. This isn't about logic, it's about the hunger created by absence. And that is why women so often pursue men who don't value them. It is not the man himself. It is the challenge he represents, the mystery he carries, the sense of striving he awakens. The paradox of desire is that lack, not abundance, fuels passion. Part 2. The Power of Indifference. Indifference is one of the most misunderstood forces in human attraction. Most men think that showing interest, being available, and constantly proving their devotion will win a woman's heart, but more often than not this backfires. Indifference, when authentic, has a magnetic pull far stronger than desperate attention. Why? Because indifference signals value. A man who does not rush to validate a woman is communicating, whether consciously or not, that his life is full, his time is precious, and his self-worth does not depend on her recognition. This is what Agnes Callard would describe as a higher orientation of desire. The man has already set his life toward other values. his purpose, his growth, his mission. He does not place her at the center of his universe because his universe is already rich and complete. This indifference forces a woman to confront a powerful truth. She cannot easily sway him. She cannot bend his will with her beauty or her attention. She cannot dominate his emotional world. And that realization creates both frustration and fascination. The harder it is to move him, the more valuable his recognition becomes. Imagine a man who is polite, respectful, and kind, but never overinvested. He listens, but he doesn't seek approval. He spends time with her, but never rearranges his entire life around her. This balance of composure and detachment makes him rare. He becomes the man whose validation means something, precisely because it is not freely given to everyone. Agnes Callard's insight here is profound. Aspiration requires resistance. We grow, strive, and desire only when there is something standing in our way. Indifference is that resistance. It tells the woman, if you want my recognition, you must rise to meet my standard. It shifts the dynamic entirely. Instead of him chasing her, she begins to chase him, not because he plays games, but because his indifference is rooted in genuine self-possession. And here's the truth most men miss. Women can't resist the man who is indifferent because his indifference isn't cruelty. It's a reflection of inner strength. He is not rejecting her. He is simply grounded in his own worth, and that makes him irresistibly compelling. Agnes Callard emphasizes that aspiration is never about staying the same. It is about becoming. Women who desire men who don't value them are not fixated on rejection itself, but on the possibility of being chosen by someone who resists them. The resistance creates an aspirational ladder. When a man appears indifferent, his recognition suddenly carries enormous weight. To be chosen by the man who doesn't easily give validation feels like an achievement. It is no longer just attention, it becomes a prize, a status, a transformation. Think about it. If a man values every woman the same, his affection loses uniqueness. But when he values few or only one, the one who finally earns it feels elevated. She doesn't just feel desired. She feels distinguished. This is not about romance alone, it's about self-concept. Women, like men, want to feel exceptional. They want to feel they have won something rare. Agnes Callard's work explains this dynamic with clarity. Desire is not always about what is currently valuable. It's about reaching toward a new value, a higher form of the self. For a woman, the man who doesn't value her yet becomes the one who forces her to level up, to aspire, to grow into someone worthy of his attention. In her striving, she feels alive. This is why indifference is not just a tactic. It is an unconscious expression of hierarchy. The man who is self-possessed stands above the man who chases because his validation is not cheap. And in this hierarchy, women instinctively want to climb upward, to be seen and chosen by the man who doesn't need them but could choose them. Part 4. The scarcity principle of value scarcity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. We value what is rare, what is hard to get, what cannot be easily duplicated. Women are no exception to this principle. In fact, attraction often intensifies in the presence of scarcity. When a man freely gives his attention, texting constantly, complimenting endlessly, rearranging his life for her, his affection becomes abundant, and abundance reduces value. She may appreciate it for a while, but the mystery vanishes. She feels no reason to chase because she already has all of him without effort. But when a man is scarce, when he is focused on his mission, when his time is precious, when he does not immediately fold into her orbit, suddenly, his attention becomes gold. She wants it, not because he has denied her cruelly, but because it is rare. The less of it she has, the more powerful it feels when she finally receives it. Agnes Callard would point out that scarcity creates aspiration. We long to acquire what is not immediately available. The pursuit becomes a process of self-transformation. She feels she must earn his attention, prove herself, or rise to the standard he embodies. His scarcity makes him valuable, and his value transforms her desire into pursuit. This is why women often resist men who shower them with constant praise, yet cannot stop thinking about men who remain scarce. It is not about cruelty, arrogance, or manipulation. It is about the structure of human desire itself. Scarcity elevates value, and women cannot resist the rare. Part 5. The illusion of control. One of the deepest reasons women desire men who don't value them lies in the illusion of control. Many women, especially those accustomed to admiration, believe they can easily attract a man's attention. When they encounter a man who does not bend, who does not instantly validate, who remains detached, they experience a loss of control. And that loss ignites obsession. Agnes Callard's philosophy helps us understand why. Aspiration requires resistance. If everything comes easily, there is no growth, no striving, no transformation. But when something resists, the aspirant feels compelled to keep reaching. For a woman, the indifferent man becomes the one she cannot control. And in trying to control him, she fuels her own desire. This dynamic explains why some women stay hooked on men who clearly don't prioritize them. They are not addicted to neglect itself. They are addicted to the chase, the challenge, the aspiration to win back control. Each moment of indifference feels like resistance, and resistance awakens the drive to overcome. Ironically, the man who doesn't value her often holds more power over her emotions than the one who showers her with love. Why? Because love freely given confirms her control while indifference challenges it, and challenges are irresistible. This is the paradox. The harder it is to move him, the more valuable his movement becomes. The more he resists, the more she aspires to overcome that resistance. Agnes Callard would say that aspiration is about becoming the kind of person who can possess a value you don't yet have. For the woman, the value she doesn't yet have is his recognition, and in striving to attain it, her desire deepens, not weakens. Every relationship, whether romantic or social, acts as a mirror. When a man shows constant admiration, the mirror reflects an image of a woman who is already enough, already secure, already desired. For some women this feels good, but for many it feels too easy. They begin to doubt its authenticity. They wonder, does he really see me, or is he just projecting what he wants to see? Now consider the man who does not value her openly. His mirror is harder to read. His recognition is not automatic, it must be earned. In this uncertainty, the woman starts to evaluate herself more deeply. She questions her attractiveness, her worth, her uniqueness, and in this self-questioning, she begins to aspire to prove herself, to rise to a standard she imagines he holds. Agnes Callard explains that aspiration often arises from a sense of incompleteness. We desire not only what we lack, but also what we believe we could become if we attained it. For women who desire men who don't value them, the lack of validation creates a sense of incompleteness. They want to close the gap. They want the mirror to finally reflect an image of themselves as chosen, admired, and exceptional. This is why such men hold a strange, almost irrational grip on women's emotions. They are not necessarily better, kinder, or even more attractive, but because they do not give away their value cheaply, they become the mirror of self-worth women aspire to conquer. Part 7. The liberation of not needing approval now. We come to the final and most powerful point. Women can't resist men who don't value them because such men embody liberation from need. Most men, consciously or not, communicate neediness. They want her approval, her attention, her affection. But the man who does not value her communicates the opposite. I do not need you to complete me. I am whole as I am. This is profoundly attractive. Why? Because it represents freedom. He is not enslaved by her recognition. He is not waiting for her text to validate his day. He is not measuring his worth against her moods. He stands rooted in his own mission, his own purpose, his own life. Agnes Callard's philosophy of aspiration helps us see this clearly. The man who does not seek her validation has already oriented his desire toward higher goals. He aspires not to please her but to fulfill something larger, whether it be wisdom, growth, achievement, or inner peace. Women sensing this are drawn to it. They cannot resist it because it embodies strength. Ironically, the very thing that makes him irresistible is not a performance or a game. It is authenticity. He is free, and freedom in any form is magnetic. Ending. So why do women chase men who don't value them? Why do they find themselves pulled toward indifference, scarcity, and resistance? The answer lies not in cruelty but in philosophy. Agnes Callard shows us that desire is not about having what is easy. Desire is about aspiring toward what is difficult, scarce, and transformative. Women cannot resist men who don't value them because such men awaken aspiration. They spark the yearning to be chosen, the drive to overcome resistance, the hunger to transform incompleteness into recognition. For men, the lesson is clear. Stop chasing. Stop pouring your value into constant validation. Do not try to win by abundance. Instead, live by purpose. Hold yourself with quiet strength. Value yourself enough to not seek her approval. When you do this, not as a tactic but as a way of life, you embody what is rare. You become the man whose recognition is meaningful, the man who cannot be easily controlled, the man who inspires aspiration. And here's the truth. Women don't truly want men who don't value them. They want men who value themselves so deeply that they don't hand over their worth cheaply. That is what makes you unforgettable. That is what makes you irresistible. So live your life with purpose. Value yourself first. And let the world, women included, aspire to rise to your standard.